working and it's expanding. The use of alternative definitions of anti-Semitism impairs enforcement efforts by adding multiple standards and may fail to identify many of the modern manifestations of anti-Semitism. And it goes on to explain the national security strategies of the president, the last two, which is anyone conservative or doesn't hate white people is anti-Semitic or a white supremacist who can be put in prison, basically. You're the number one terror threat, even though it doesn't really manifest anywhere. They're saying it is because they're going to stage false flags, and you know where that's going. It's going to be very obvious. They're going to attack Jewish sites, they're going to attack black sites, and we're off the races. This is the final piece before they do that, so you know, get ready for the New World Order to engage in that. But sitting back here for a minute, I want this to sink in. And again, I could play multiple congressmen, including Democrats, saying this, that voted against it, and Republicans. This is not my interpretation. This gives an open blank check for this multinational NGO, non-governmental organization to do whatever it wants with a working definition that they apply. So in U.S. law, it defines things very clearly, what's illegal, what's not. But this just says it's whatever we say it is, and it's changing, it's working. It's a living document. So it's beyond RICO, which can be misapplied, of conspiracy. This is beyond RICO. They're just saying, we just make up whatever we want. And they give examples of what this will be. And some of it I'm saying, well, that's already illegal under law, and I think is illegal. Beating up Jews because they're Jews at a college, not letting them in, making them wear wristbands, or if they don't have wristbands, they can't get in. I mean, you know, that's bad stuff. But the Netanyahu just says, ban all these protests. Well, you know, arrest those who think it's illegal. It's the same with the censorship. Oh, just ban all the conservatives because they're all white supremacists. So it continues. The White House released the first ever United States national strategy to counter anti-Semitism in May of 2023, making clear that the fight against hate is a national bipartisan priority that must be successfully conducted through a whole of government and society approach. Section 4, definitions. For purposes of this act, the term definition of anti-Semitism, and then it just says it's whatever a multinational group says. Means of definition anti-Semitism adopted on May 26, 2016 by the IHRA, of which the United States is a member, which definition has been adopted by the Department of State. Not ratified as a treaty, but accepted as Department of State. So just like the Supreme Court ruled 2 years ago, they can't shut down coal power plants without a law with the Department of Energy, but they still do it. So it's the same thing. The bureaucracy does whatever it wants and makes its own laws that aren't laws, but now this foreign group will tell the bureaucracy what the living definition, breathing, changing definition is. I mean, this is just staggering. Means the definition of anti-Semitism adopted on May 26, 2016 by the IHRA. So they adopted it, foreign multinational UN group, of which the United States is a member. Okay, you're a member, but you didn't ratify it in Congress, which definition has been adopted by the Department of State and includes the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified in the IHRA definition. And then it just says, we will follow whatever they say. Read it for yourself. And it just goes on to say, if you criticize basically Jews in any way, or a war that Israel's involved in, you're kicked out of school, you could be criminally charged with violation of civil rights. I mean, this is just criminalizing First Amendment. Section 6, other rules of consideration. The general rule of construction. Nothing in this act should be construed to expand the authority of the Secretary of Education, even though it does. Number 2, to alter the standards pursuant to which the Department of Education makes determinations that harassing conduct accounts to actionable discriminalization, or 3, dismiss or infringe upon the rights of protected under any provision of the law. So this just goes on to say we'll selectively enforce this. Finally, constitutional protections. Nothing in the act shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon any right protected under the First Amendment, the Constitution of the United States. Well, you've seen what's happened with me. They just made up stuff I never said. They had a show trial where I was already found guilty. You know, YouTube just is taking down speeches about people saying, stop the war on whites. That's openly being announced. I've got all the stacks of news there. So this is a big deal. And then we've got Biden. Biden's plan to bring in Gazan refugees is national security insanity. Yeah, Israel won't take them, but now all these pissed off people are going to get here and get even further radicalized into this weird amalgamation of Islam and communism. And they've got all these weird so-called right-wing people over here that love Hitler that are all saying how great all this is. And boy, we're going to finally get the Jews. Yeah, you're going to finally give Israel even more power. I mean, you think the World Trade Center getting attacked hurt Israel or the military-industrial complex? No, it made it more powerful. You think the October 7th attack on Israel when they stood down hurt Israel? It made them more powerful. And I don't want to destroy Israel from the mountains to the sea and all this crap, but I can see and point out what's happening, and then the Israel lobby coming in here to take all of our free speech, knowing it's mainly directed at conservatives, and Soros is in there manipulating the uprising, and they say they're going to have a civil war to stop Trump. It'll be a communist uprising. They bill as a civil war. This is all happening now, just as I said it would leading into the election, and it's going to get more and more intense. So you have to understand the globalists are funding both sides. They are manipulating all this to target the American people. You know, I'm just going to play the whole Chip Roy clip again because some stations don't carry that first 5. And this is Chip Roy, congressman, going over what's in the bill. Just so you know, that's not Alex Jones saying that. And I know you're smart. You can read what I just said. I read about 80% of the bill. We don't have time to read all of it. It's a bunch of crap. But it just repeats the same stuff. At the end says, don't worry, you still got all your rights. Oh, don't worry, you got free speech. We just surveil everybody and censor hundreds of millions of people and take your banking away if we don't like what you said. Oh, don't worry, you still got your free speech, you just don't have it. Oh, you still got privacy. You know, Congress 2 weeks ago just passed a law again for total warrantless spying on all of us in live time by AI, and all the federal agencies are in everything with AI, just tracking everything in live time, and your car's got kill switches in it and geo-fencing controls, and they just killed 22 million people with poison shots. But we're going to sit here with the media focused on Israel and Palestine all day to have a big uproar and a big uprising. And then a cop's going to shoot a black man, and then everything's going to burn down when Trump gets elected. I mean, we just sit here and we watch it happen. Because it's too much fun to be an idiot communist or an idiot leftist or someone that just supports whatever Israel does, a moron on that side. I'm not saying everybody on the Muslim side or the Jewish side's bad. I'm just saying you're being manipulated. And then you've got people like my listeners and myself that understand what's happening and are trying to stop it. And, of course, we're the ones they want to silence. Yeah, we're hard to shut down. We're hard to kill. But we've gone through hell, folks. And, of course, that's the main sign that we're over the target. But you don't have to just see that. You know, because you can see it yourself. Here's Congressman Chip Roy.
But here's the thing. Yet again today on the floor of the House of Representatives, we had another show vote to make people feel good about themselves by passing a bill that says anti-Semitism in the title. That's what happened. And it was put on the floor by Republican leadership. And it was put on the floor by Republican leadership despite knowing that it was pulled from going through committee. We didn't have a chance to amend it. We didn't have a chance to discuss it, to debate it. We didn't have a hearing on it. It was jammed through to take advantage of this political moment while all of these horrific things are going around the country. Republican leadership wanted to score political points, so they moved through legislation without the kind of deliberation, debate that is supposed to be carried out by the people in this chamber. As a result, today, a significant number of my Republican colleagues, including myself, voted no. As a result, we will be accused of, I don't know, being for anti-Semitic behavior, being accused by our friends and allies of not wanting to support Israel, supporting our Jewish American colleagues and friends, constituents, fellow Americans. Nothing could be further from the truth, but that's what will happen. And it'll happen because we dared to stand up and say, we don't believe in thought police. We don't believe that a bill should be brought to the floor of the United States House of Representatives, having not gone through committee, that has a reference in it to international organizations' definitions literally in the statute, and then taking that international organization's definition, and then literally in the statute, representing and referencing the examples of anti-Semitic behavior. Now, I find the vast majority of the things that were listed in that to be horrific activity, most likely, if not certainly, anti-Semitic, at least in most contexts. Some of them are problematic. In totality, they certainly raise First Amendment concerns. They certainly raise concerns about something that I've opposed to the best of my knowledge and ability, reading through pieces of legislation at every turn and every vote, to oppose the whole notion of hate speech, hate crimes, thought police, thought crimes, putting the government into your head and your motivations when you're engaged in criminal behavior. Criminal behavior is criminal behavior. Violating people's civil rights is violating people's civil rights. But when we want to insert the government into what you're thinking and what motivates you, you are empowering that which should never be empowered. The ability of the government to police thought, to police speech, to police your views. Not the views that carry out then the actions. The actions are the problem. Police the actions.
Absolutely. All right. So don't criminalize speech. Go after criminal activity. Now I forgot to get to this because somehow I lost it in my stack. I had a whole marked up copy of this. I didn't get to the most powerful part. O'Keefe's coming up next, but I'll cover this after he leaves. Then I'll tag this on to the end of this report I just did. You got to read the international group and their definition of anti-Semitism. Folks, any criticism of Israel, you're charged with civil rights violations. You've got to read it. Let me show you the cover page. Real fast overhead shots. People can pull it themselves. What is anti-Semitism? This is the law that they're passing. Holocaust website right here. There's the URL. And we are back live. I just talked to James O'Keefe. He's a little late getting back to his studio. He'll be on with us in about 10 minutes. And that gives me time to get into the definition that they just passed in the House that's going to pass the Senate. They got like 80 votes for saying in the Senate. It just passed 320 to 91. That a foreign multinational group will be in control of the policy of the FBI and the Department of Education. And here is the International Holocaust Organization. We'll put it on screen for you right there. This is working definition of anti-Semitism. And it says this whole document is now going to be law. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jews or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. But then it goes on in the definition right here, and this is what is absolutely incredible. And this bans the First Amendment. This bans the New Testament, as Tucker Carlson is pointing out, calling for, and that's why in Canada they've arrested people that read in church out of Bible verses, that say, like in the New Testament, saying the Jews came and got Christ and brought him to Pilate. And there was just one group of the Jews doing it, calling for aiding or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideological or extremist view of religion. Okay, well, I mean, I don't think calling for killing people is good, and if you try to do it, you go to jail. So, okay, all right. But then they mix in things that make sense with bad things. Number two, making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews and such are the power of Jews as a collective, as such, especially but not extensively or exclusively, the myth about world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling